Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today we are going to be recapping a disappointing opening night loss for the New York Jets as they fall 32-19 against the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football to fall to 0-1 on the season. We are going to be breaking down all angles of this game in today's episode. As always, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS. Use my link, which can be found in the description of this video, to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. Football season is here. Week 1 is in the books, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with America's favorite online sportsbook. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek, promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And of course, our friends over at Huga House. Make sure to check all of these out. All the links can be found in the description of this video. Promo code Bubs for 15% off. And the Jets lose. This is episode 380, a reaction video here. It is 11:30 p.m. Eastern, so a little over 25 minutes-ish removed from what was a very, very disappointing game. And there's really no other way to put it, right? You know, you have the Aaron Rodgers injury last year. You go through all of last season, finish 7-10, go into the offseason, and the hype starts to build. You bring in many, many new additions. You go out, you put together a really good training camp, a healthy training camp, a healthy preseason, and you go out there tonight and you really weren't competitive for really much of the game. Other than the first quarter where the New York Jets were able to obviously get on the board with a touchdown, the long touchdown drive, which featured 4 first downs and a whole lot of Rodgers to Garrett Wilson. Outside of that beautiful drive, the New York Jets got off to the 7-3 lead, and after that, it was over. Quickly, you look, it's midway through the third quarter. They're down 26-7. Jets try to fight back. You get the Rodgers free play touchdown to Lazard, but the defense tonight was awful. The defense tonight on many levels was pathetic, and it's just disappointing. And no way am I going to sit here and panic. I'm not going to sit here and say the season's over. I'm not going to sit here and say you got to make wholesale changes because of one game on the road out west against a team that was in the Super Bowl just a couple months ago in the San Francisco 49ers. We can't discount what the 49ers are as a team, but they were missing Christian McCaffrey in this game. And we will get to Rodgers. We will get to the offense because there was a lot of positives from an Aaron Rodgers perspective and from an offensive perspective. There was some negatives, but all in all, a healthy day for Rodgers, most importantly, and a really, really good day for him, especially if you watch the game. If you just sit and look at the box score, it might tell you a different story. But if you actually watch the game, it tells a whole different story. Rodgers was very good today. He was vintage Rodgers, made some great throws. We'll get to that. But the defense today was pathetic. You go into this game knowing what the Niners have on offense. And they still had all those pieces except Christian McCaffrey. We went into this game knowing you've got to find a way to contain Christian McCaffrey. It was one of my keys to this game. We knew what he is. 2023 all-purpose yards last year, but he's not out there. Christian McCaffrey misses this game, been dealing with the calf injury, been dealing with the Achilles injury. So you go into this game, Niners missing, not really arguably, he is their best offensive piece, arguably the best offensive weapon. You can make the case CMC all around is the best player in the NFL, let alone just offense, let alone just running back. That's how big of a piece he is. And the New York Jets still go out there, let up 180 rushing yards, 147 of them coming from Jordan Mason in his first career NFL start. I mean, this is a guy that in 2 seasons with the team has 464 total yards. Tonight, he had 147. He averaged 5.3 yards per carry and also was able to find the end zone. The New York Jets tonight, from a defensive perspective, were horrendous, and there's no other way to spin it. And I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for this unit that has been really good, been the lone bright spot for this team during the past couple years, really, obviously with no quarterback play, has been one of the lone bright spots. You finally get competent quarterback play. You finally get a healthy Aaron Rodgers for a game, and they don't even show up. They didn't even get off the bus. That's how bad the defense was. And it starts up front. It starts on the defensive line. They were getting pushed around. They were getting manhandled all night. And I know the Niners got Trent Williams up front, but it isn't like this is a dominant offensive line by any means in San Francisco. Aaron Banks is coming off of one of his worst seasons of his career, allowed 24 pressures last year. And also, they had a rookie starting at right guard in Dominic Pooney. So while you have Trent Williams, while you got some pieces, interior-wise, there was places to exploit both from a pass rushing perspective and a run-stopping perspective, and the Jets couldn't do that at all. They got manhandled all night. They lost the battle in the trenches. And when you lose the battle in the trenches that badly against a team like the Niners, you're going to pay for it. And that's what the Jets did. They paid for it big time, losing 32-19. I mean, just getting pushed around all night long. 5, 6, 7, 8 yards every single carry. First down, 5-yard run. Second down, 4-yard run. 3rd and 1, conversion. 1st and 10, 6-yard run, conversion. 1st and 10, 8-yard run. Another run, first down. I mean, just run. Big gain, big gain. Niners as a team averaged 4.7 yards per carry. Mason averaged almost 5.5 yards per carry. And that was one of the things I said about the Jets' run defense last year. Was while on paper it didn't look that good, statistically it wasn't very good, a lot of it was because of the high amounts of rushing attempts they were facing. Yards per carry wise, it wasn't bad. Teams were only averaging about 3.3, 3.4 yards per carry against the Jets last year rushing. But it was because it was late in games, garbage time. They were running so much that they were just accumulating yards. It wasn't a lot of yards per carry. It wasn't a lot of big runs. It was just a high volume of runs, a high volume from scrimmage that they're going to rack up yards at some point. Tonight, that wasn't the case. They were just getting manhandled. It was a lot of big plays. Jordan Mason, longest run of the day, 24 yards. I mean, just so frustrating. And then you go to the pass rushing standpoint, and the Jets, from a pass rushing perspective, didn't get home at all. Not at all. It was brutal. No pressure all night on Brock Purdy. First 2 keys that we mentioned on Saturday morning in our preview show. Stop the run, contain McCaffrey. McCaffrey's not out there. All right. Can you contain Jordan Madison? They couldn't do that. Pathetic. Then you go to the pass rushing. We talked about it. The big storyline. No Hassan Reddick. What are they going to look like? They're without Quentin Jefferson, of course, gone in the offseason. JFM, gone in the offseason. Bryce Huff, gone in the offseason. 3 big pieces you lost up front. All right. No Hassan Reddick. You still got Quinnen. You got Jermaine Johnson. What can Javon Kinlaw do? What can these UDFAs do? Can we see a year 2 jump formulating an opening night from Will McDonald? And we didn't even see that. Pass rushing tonight was dreadful. 3 sacks, one of them on that Deebo Samuel play. I guess they counted as a sack. It looked like they were trying to do a trick play where Deebo would throw it to Purdy. It was a disaster play. That was a very interesting play call on I think it was a 3rd down and 2, 3rd down and 1. Very interesting play call. But the other sacks were basically Purdy was down. Jets defenders touched him and got registered with a sack. Tony Adams got registered with a sack. Sauce the other one, even Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens was the other one late in this game that got registered with a sack. That was probably the real big sack. Like, Purdy was getting rushed out of pocket. They actually swarmed him, but he didn't even get sacked. Like, he went down on his own. The Jets, Michael Clemens touched him and got credited with the sack. So no pressure at all. And that's got to be a little concerning if you're a Jet fan. I'm not even going to lie. That's got to be a little concerning. I'm not panicking, but that's got to be concerning. They didn't get any pressure on Brock Purdy. That was the big question. That was the big concern going into tonight's game. Could you get pressure on Brock Purdy? They could not do so. All night long, he had an open pocket. all night long, especially in some big spots on third down. I mean, how many times do we see Brock Purdy step up tonight in big spots on third down and complete some big passes? Really, really way too much. And that's where a guy like a Hassan Reddick, a Bryce Huff, one of those guys comes in handy as a third down, shut down, elite pass rusher. And unfortunately, you look at this defensive line, they lost a lot of pieces, and it looked like this tonight. That's the risk you take relying on great story, cool stuff. Tack McKinley, Braden McGregor, all great. You know, Watson, Leonard, Taylor were healthy scratches, of course, healthy and actives, rather. Great story, cool, but I mean, you got to go out there and perform. I thought Jalen Holmes, maybe a couple plays, but there was no pressure. I mean, you had Quinnen early in the game get a quarterback hit on Purdy. In the first two drives, the Jets defense looked good, especially with the way the first two offensive drives for the Jets went offensively, where you had the bad drop by Lazard, then you had the Breece Hall fumble. The Breece Hall fumble set the Niners up in the Jets territory. Jets defense was able to get a stop. Early on, it felt like this was typical Jets. Offense doesn't do anything. Defense steps up. Then the offense has that huge drive, and the defense goes missing the rest of the night. But it's got to be a concern. And there's got to be some criticism on Joe Douglas as well for this, for a loss like this. Because you go out there this offseason, you lose Quentin Jefferson, you lose Bryce Huff. Trading JFM was beyond pathetic and even more frustrating now than it was when they originally traded for him. But you trade JFM. You do all that, you lose three key pieces to your defensive line, and your replacement plan is to bring in Hassan Reddick, who's not even here. He's not even with the team. So essentially, the Jets they've lost three pieces on the defensive line and have done nothing to fix it. Nothing. Other than 3 EDFAs making the roster, a former first round pick that didn't pan out making the roster, Jalen Holmes getting activated, and Javon Kinlaw, and relying on Michael Clemens, who has done nothing in his first 2 seasons, and relying on Noah McDonald to take a year 2 jump. That's a very risky game the Jets are playing, and it backfired in their face tonight. And that's a concern. And that's frustrating. And that's why you look at the score, and it is what it is. 2022, 2023, this defense has been elite. I think tonight was probably the worst defensive performance we've seen from this Jets team since Saleh's first year, 2021. And that's not particularly good. Not at all. And they and this goes back to too. Look, Jets fans, we know this. I mean, they need Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick's huge. And the Jets would look like absolute fools right now if they go out tomorrow and give Hassan Reddick a contract, because they would just look stupid. They go, we're fine, we don't need him. All of a sudden, 1 week in, and they're already panicking. Okay, come, Hassan, we need you. Come save us. They would look terrible. It would be a terrible look. Look, if he comes in the building, it's great, but it doesn't even matter. Either way, it's just they need Reddick. All these Jets fans, all these other people saying, "Oh, Michael Clemens, you got that." Well, tonight was as much as Reddick, we want to hate on him, as much as we want to say, "Oh, he's stupid for doing this." They need him. They need somebody. Michael Clemens ain't gonna cut it. Will McDonald, we need to see more of him. I mean, was he even out there tonight? These UDFAs, didn't see a whole lot. I mean, let's be honest. Outside of the one play where Quinnen Williams legitimately blew up the play and got to Purdy, that was the only legitimate, dominant pass rushing rep that the Jets had all night. All night. Outside of that, nobody showed up. Nobody. I mean, there was a couple plays where Purdy was just standing in the pocket. And there was a play where Javon Kinlaw was just kind of standing up, not even moving. It's like, what are we doing? You could drive a truck through the pocket. Speak of that, the New York Jets couldn't stop a parked truck. They couldn't stop a parked car. They couldn't stop a nosebleed tonight. If I went out there and played running back for the San Francisco 49ers, I probably would have been able to put up 60 to 80 yards with this Jets defense getting manhandled at the point of attack on the defensive line. Disgusting performance from the defense. And it has to get better, and it has to get better right away. because we talk about this, right? Prime time, tough spot, San Francisco. All right, you kind of get a pass. Fans are going to give him a pass. The media is going to give him a pass. It's a tough spot. Okay. You look at this upcoming schedule, you still like their chances to be successful, but you got to go out there and win next week. You cannot get manhandled next week against Tennessee. This Jets defense all of a sudden now has a lot of pressure on them next week because, okay, you get embarrassed against San Francisco. You get embarrassed against their backup running back. They still got all their other weapons, but it's still San Francisco, good team. Fine. You want to make that excuse? Okay. I'm personally not going to make that excuse. I think it looked terrible, and I think you got to be concerned. Maybe you're not concerned because it's one game, however you want to be a fan, however you want to react to this game. But next week, they got to come out, and they got to play 10 times better. Because if not, and you lose to Tennessee, now you're looking at 0-2. You're looking at this defense, and if they're just bad, I mean, if they can't generate a pass rush against Will Levis, that's a serious issue. So all of a sudden now pressure starts to formulate on this defense going into week 2 after a abysmal performance tonight. Time of possession too. I mean, you just look at the numbers in this game. Not only do you look at the score, you look at the numbers. Just pathetic. I mean, 401 total yards to 266. 70 total plays for the San Francisco 49ers. 49 for the New York Jets. I think the most eye-opening stat of the night, and this is, I think, maybe the most frustrating because we didn't see Aaron Rodgers much. Time of possession. The Jets got destroyed in time of possession. 38 minutes and 40 seconds for the San Francisco 49ers. 21 minutes and 20 seconds for the New York Jets. That is beyond pathetic. Beyond pathetic. All this time waiting to see Aaron Rodgers, and we basically get robbed of it. We barely see him. The Jets had 5 yards in the second quarter because the defense couldn't stop anything. Like I said, if I was out there playing running back, I could have managed a couple nice runs on this defense. That's how bad it was tonight. That's how frustrating this outcome is. I also didn't think the safeties played particularly well. I was curious at any point if we were going to see maybe a blitz from Jeff Ulbrich at any point tonight. It obviously never happened. It's a team that doesn't blitz a ton, but they don't need to. Now you enter, maybe they do need to start blitzing a little bit more now. They don't blitz. They never really have blitzed under Ulbrich, under Saleh, because, like I said, they've been able to just kind of pin their ears back, rush 4, and get pressure with 4. But in a night like tonight, I would have liked to see them try a blitz at least a little bit, just because of the fact that they couldn't get pressure with just the 4 they were rushing. Even if you send a blitz, what's the worst that could happen? Even if you just send the blitz and not only do you, maybe, who knows, maybe you send a blitz and you hit Purdy's arm, ball goes up in the air, safety runs under it, and you pick it off. Who knows what happens if you send the house at Purdy, as opposed to just going with the very simple, very vanilla rush 4, hope that one of these guys can get home when it wasn't working all night. So that was pretty disappointing. Overall, Jets were a little banged up on defense at some points in this game. I thought overall Jets came out healthy, which is good. There was a couple points where guys were banged up. Mosley got banged up. He looked like he was dealing with a wrist injury. He ended up coming back, but he missed some plays on the one scoring drive. I mean, San Francisco had what was it, 8 straight scoring drives, I think it was, or something like that. I think it was in this game. That's between they had like 8 straight. Yeah, it was brutal either way. But Mosley was out. Sauce was out at first. Saleh said he was trying to catch his breath in the post-game presser. So it seemed like he was kind of hurt, kind of catching his breath. When you're watching the game on ESPN, the update from Lisa Salters was that they didn't know, like, he wasn't hurt. He was just out. So we all of Jets fans, like, why the heck is he out of the game? Comes to find out, he had that hit earlier in the game or looked like kind of got the wind knocked out of him, maybe hit his shoulder area. And it looked like he was kind of dealing with, like, I don't know, whiplash, just got the wind knocked out of him. And it felt like, from what Saleh said, he was still catching the breath on the sideline. But when you heard that he wasn't hurt and he wasn't out there and the Jets defense is getting toasted and your number one cornerback's not out there, as a Jet fan, you're like, what the heck are we doing here? Why is Sauce not out there if he's not hurt? So, but it does seem like he was still a little banged up and trying to catch his breath and get back on the field there. So I guess that's the reasoning. Michael Carter also left the game, but relatively healthy. I mean, just not good, not good defensively. That was about it. I mean, Sauce had the big pass breakup against Ayuk that I thought was really good. Tony Adams had the one pass breakup late in the game. Quincy Williams had a really nice pass breakup. It wasn't so much the pass defense. I mean, the problem is I think with some of the lapses at times in coverage was they weren't getting home. They weren't getting any pressure. Purdy at time, guys were going to get open at some point. In terms of that, in terms of run defense, it was just awful there. Now, as for the offense, it's unfortunate we didn't see them enough. We barely saw them. It feels like we spent all this time waiting to see Aaron Rodgers, and I'm starving for more Aaron Rodgers because what we saw out of him was a heck of a lot of fun, but we barely saw him. We saw him for 21 minutes essentially. We really only saw like 2 good Aaron Rodgers drives, with the other ones, the Lazard drop hit the ended the first drive. You had the Brees fumble on the second drive. Then you had a couple punts. Then you had the interception, which was kind of just unlucky. Good coverage, tipped off the corner's arm into the Niners' hands. So a little bit unlucky there. Not really. Rodgers is just unlucky. Good play by the Niners. You kind of got to tip their cap. Good PBU, popped up in the air, right place, right time type of thing. But then they had the touchdown the next drive, and that was pretty much it. Then they went for it on the 4th and 1, third and 1, couldn't get it. 4th and 1, couldn't get it. Questionable play calling. Don't really know what they were trying to doing. Would have liked to see Braylon Allen in there on that 3rd and 1. I was kind of wondering what Braylon Allen's usage was all night. We'll get to that here in a second. But look, I start with Aaron Rodgers. He was great. Aaron Rodgers is very good tonight. He made plays that look like vintage Aaron Rodgers. And most importantly, he came out healthy. And while you don't want to see him get sacked, he got his hit out of the way. He took a sack. Bosa, Leonard Floyd got to him. Bosa beat Tyron Smith pretty good. Leonard Floyd came around the other edge. I think Leonard Floyd was actually ended up getting credited with the sack, but both guys got to Rodgers. So Rodgers got sacked, which isn't going to be, I guess it's, he got hit out of the way. He got sacked. You held your breath there for a second as a Jet fan. You wanted to see him get up. He got up, and that was it. So he took his hit. He came out healthy. That's what matters most. And he played well. I mean, that touchdown drive that had 4 first downs, him feeding Garrett Wilson, 12 plays, 70 yards. That was, I think, the prettiest drive the Jets have seen in 2 decades. I mean, probably the prettiest drive we have seen in 10, 20 years. That's how pretty it was. That's how beautiful it was. Key 3rd down conversions. Rodgers just feeding Garrett, then going to the sideline and telling him, I'm going to keep going. That was great to see. Just that drive was awesome. And that's the potential. I mean, and then you got the other touchdown drive as well, where you get Lazard or the defense to jump. Rodgers slings it deep, gets it to Lazard, had the great throw to Garrett Wilson, had the really nice throw down the sideline to Lazard. I mean, there was so many vintage-esque Rodgers moments, whether it was a couple of the throws or it was the drawing the Niners off sides, getting a free play, and finding Lazard in the end zone there downfield was really pretty. The Jets offense is fine. Are there things to clean up? Yes, but Rodgers was vintage Rodgers pretty much. It's the defense that's the biggest concern. It's the defense that's got to clean things up. Rodgers finished the day 13 of 21, 167 yards, a touchdown, a pick, 1 sack, 82.8 rating, 8 yards per completion. As for the running backs, I was a little, I don't know. Brees had the fumble, very uncharacteristic. He ended up having the touchdown on that big 12-play drive orchestrated by Rodgers in the early stage of that game in the first quarter, of course. So that was good to see for Brees to bounce back after that fumble. But I don't think it was Brees. I didn't think the run protection tonight, run pro was all that good. The run blocking was all that good. I thought pass protection, the offensive line held up for the most part. There was definitely some plays where Bosa got the better of Tyron Smith and even Leonard Floyd. But I thought for the most part, pass protection was good. I thought the run blocking was pretty poor. Really, the Jets as a whole, whether it was stopping the run or running the football, they weren't very good. They allowed 180 rushing yards, and they only had 68 rushing yards themselves. So not a very good day from a running perspective on either side of the football. What I questioned a little bit with the run game was where Braylon Allen was. And mostly it was that 3rd and 1 late in the game. Not that it would have meant a ton. The Jets probably weren't going to win the game anyway. But you had that 4th down, right? In the 4th quarter, 9 minutes to go. At the time, it's 29-13. Who knows? Jets score. They convert the 2. They make it an 8-point game, whatever. Either way, you get 3rd and 1. And I know it was maybe a questionable spot, but either way, you get the 3rd and 1. You run it there with Brees. He doesn't get it. Then you get the shotgun pass. Rodgers gets it to Garrett, broken up. Whether or not you want to say it was pass interference, I don't even know. Who cares? I don't think it was. I don't think either call was really necessarily bad. I just didn't think it was very smart by the Jets. That 3rd and 1 play, I think Braylon Allen's got to be out there. Question the personnel a little bit from that perspective with the Jets on offense. That's something they could clean up. Like Braylon Allen is your 3rd down, your 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 short yardage guy, your red zone guy. Why wasn't he out there in a couple of those situations? I didn't know, especially in that 3rd and 1 late in the game. Brees may be a little bit tired, right? The Niners beating you up pretty good all around. Like, get your physical downhill runner in there, get pick up 2-3 yards, and get moving with the drive. Instead, they run it with Brees. He runs into the wall and gets nowhere. So I would like to see Allen in there. That's why you've got him. You've got that physical downhill runner for a reason. Didn't use him. So that was something I would like to see more of. And you hope as the season goes on, personnel, stuff like that will get itself worked out. And yeah, I mean, as for receiving wise, Lazard had the bad drop. We got the full Lazard experience today. We had the bad drop in the beginning of the game, first 3rd down of the game. Rodgers looking for his first completion as a Jet. He gets a drop. Open, terrible drop. You're sitting there as a Jet fan like, I can't do this for another season. I cannot take Allen Lazard for another season. Fast forward 3 quarters later, he finishes the day with 6 catches, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 1 touchdown from Tyrod, of course, coming in garbage time. The other one, while it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, was still sort of meaningful on the Rodgers free play that got San Francisco to jump off sides. Found Lazard deep. Nice play by Lazard. Nice throw, nice catch on the sideline. So there was some good Lazard moments. I mean, he led the day. He led the Jets in receiving yards, and that's what Lazard is. That's what he was in Green Bay. That's what he was with the Jets. And it's a little bit more under the microscope here because he's got the huge contract and what happened last year. But that's what he is. He's going to make good plays. He's going to have moments where he's going to score. He's going to rack up yards, right? He's got a lot of chemistry with Rodgers, all that stuff. But there's also going to be moments where he's going to have some really head scratching drops. Or like last year, he completely just gave up on the team and was kicking soccer balls. Whatever the case may be. Lazard and the Jets fans, it's going to be a weird relationship for pretty much his entire tenure, I think, here, which might only be this season. Either way, it ended up being a pretty good day for Lazard. 2 touchdowns, 89 yards, despite the drop in Garrett Wilson. I mean, the big one was that one drive where he was just finding Garrett. End of the day, 6 catches, 60 yards. I know Mike Williams was limited, but I would have liked to seen a little bit more of him. I mean, he was barely out there. So not a time. I mean, really, the only receivers to get involved were Lazard and Garrett. The other 3 guys to catch the ball were Brees, Allen, and Conklin. And Allen and Conklin came in garbage time. So essentially, the Jets went the entire day targeting 3 guys. That's got to be something that you hope. And of course, Mike Williams will get closer to 100% as things go on here, but you barely even saw Mike Williams out there. And I don't have the snap count right in front of me. I'll, of course, go watch back the all 22 tomorrow morning into the afternoon, and probably get a better idea of snap count, look at the numbers, look at the stats, all that stuff. But you didn't see a ton of Mike Williams, which wasn't surprising, but you would have liked to see him at least a little bit more out there. But either way, doesn't matter. Mike Williams wouldn't have made the difference, I don't think. Jets defense played like garbage. Offense did well for when they were on the field. I feel like we barely even saw Rodgers tonight. Like we saw so many good things out of Rodgers tonight. Like I Like, I feel like we didn't see enough. We didn't. We saw 21 minutes of the Jets offense. We saw the Niners offense. We saw Brock Purdy. America saw Brock Purdy for 38 minutes. They saw Rodgers for 21. Jets fans, we've been waiting. We saw Rodgers for a whole 21 minutes. I mean, it's not fair. But he looked good in those 21 minutes. So that's a positive. Biggest takeaway. Defense looked like garbage. They got to clean that up. And Rodgers played well. Definitely some mistakes on offense, but I think the offense is not the concern leaving this one. It comes down to the defense and the concerns up front. And where do they go from here? They got to figure out the run defense, and they've got to find a way to get pressure on Will Levis and every quarterback they face from here on out. So let me know what you think in the comments section down below. We'll be back with a lot more content the rest of the week. Shorter week here. Tomorrow's already Tuesday. Titans coming up again on Sunday. Another road trip. 3 games in 11 days. Game number 1 down. 2 more to go. Titans Sunday. Patriots Thursday. And that's the thing. You look at the Jets schedule here coming up. As much as this loss is disappointing, definitely a little deflating, definitely frustrating. You have Tennessee coming up, who is 0-1. They lost to a team where the opposing quarterback didn't throw for 100 yards. Will Levis looked bad. Then you have New England. Yes, I know they beat Cincy, but New England, your home opener, that is a 100% you got to win that game. I don't care how bad your defense is playing. That's a game you got to win. Then you get Minnesota, or then you get Denver. Bo Nix didn't look great. So just a reminder, their next 3 games, Will Levis, Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix. Not time to panic yet. Disappointing, frustrating, 100%. Defense needs to be worked on, 100%. Things need to be cleaned up, no doubt. But not time to panic yet. 1 game, 16 more to go, and winnable games coming up. But things need to be cleaned up for sure. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. We will be back. A lot more content coming your way. As always, hope you enjoyed it. And till next time, Jets, Jets, Jets.